This is the No Excuses Coaching Podcast with Ryan Montes and Alanna Banks, where we discuss the mindset, the attitude, and the strategies of elite coaching.
Time to do a podcast.
Podcast mode activated.
Podcast time. Welcome to the podcast. We're going to talk about niching.
Yeah,
today.
we're gonna talk about niching.
This is the sex episode.
We're gonna talk about niching and sex, and that's it. This whole episode. I think we've probably talked a little bit about niching and the importance of that, or maybe we haven't.
I don't know if we have.
We
should have.
We should have, but I don't think we have.
If we haven't, we are today.
Yeah.
Boy, are we.
We are going to talk about niching.
Okay. Yeah, this is the No Excuses podcast. You all know that. This is the sex episode / the niche episode. And niching is important. Hey, everybody, do you want to make more money? Do you want to have an easier life as a coach? Do you want to better serve your clients? Do you want more referrals? And do you want to be able to charge higher prices than your competition? The answer is having a defined niche. The answer is having a defined niche. So that's what we're going to dive into today. And Alanna Banks has a really cool, really interesting, really well-defined niche. We've hinted at it a few times now: sexual freedom and sexual freedom hypnosis. So what do you want to cover first? Do you want to talk about sexual freedom hypnosis, or do you want to talk about niching? They're both pretty interesting.
They are.
If the audience can delay gratification temporarily, let's leave the specifics of your niche a few more minutes.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, I just made some big claims about niching, charging higher prices, better serving your clients, having an easier life. I firmly believe these are true, but maybe we should talk about why these are true.
Yes, I agree.
What comes to mind?
Yeah, well, I mean, what comes to mind for me is, and I feel like I've kind of gone all over the place with niching a little bit, because I think there's this belief out there that, like, if you niche, you're going to be like married to that niche forever. And like, you're going to think, well, what if I don't like it anymore? What if I don't want to do that thing? And the thing is you don't have to, right? Like, you can try something on and see how it works and go from there. But I think the main purpose of a niche is, like, it has to be something that you're really into, right? Like, really interested in.
Yeah.
Because if you're not into it, then it's going to be really hard to create content or just get really excited about the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, where I've had the most issue is, like, I've kind of dabbled in all these niches, but to me, I seem to always come back to, like, love, relationships, communication. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. And I think that helps get your energy behind whatever it is you're working in.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if I answered why niching.
No, you didn't. But you explained, a little bit more about the value of niching. So
yeah,
how is it that you can charge higher prices when you have a more specific niche, even though the more specific your niche is, technically the smaller your pool of potential clients is? And it's because that's the nature of specialization. That's the nature of specialization. And I heard a really good example a couple of years ago. I wish I could remember who said this originally. Probably it's from a book or something. But it was, if we go and visit a general purpose doctor, or we look at the annual income of a general practitioner doctor, this is actually one of the lower points of revenue in the doctor field, in the medical field. General practitioner. The name is right in there, general. Right?
Yeah.
Versus if we go to a general practitioner and we have, like, let's say we have a knee ache, right? And we get a referral to, a knee and joint specialist. Well, their pay grade's a little higher than the general practitioner. Now in Canada, this is probably outside of the awareness of a lot of people because we have, socially funded healthcare here. But in the United States or other places where there's more awareness around how much you pay for different services, people are probably following right along saying, yeah, that's right. You go to the specialist, it's, you're on the hook for a higher bill, or, you really got to look at your insurance to make sure it's going to be covered, et cetera.
Yeah.
If that specialist then refers you for a surgery, and you need some surgery to correct a problem in your knee. Do you want to go and you're worried that, and you want the best quality of care you can get? Do you want to go to the general surgeon who, today is working on someone's knee, tomorrow is, cutting out a cyst, the day after that is, lasering away something, like in different general surgery, right?
Yeah.
Or do you want to go to Dr. Knee all the way in Boise, Idaho, who is only thing he does is knee surgeries? That's the only thing he does. He's world renowned for surgery on just the knee. Nobody gets better results. Nobody else is more well known for knee surgery. Who do you want to go to? Obviously, the knee specialist. Who's more expensive, the general surgeon or that one dude or lady or whoever that specializes in exactly what you need? Well, when we think about it this way, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
The more specialized you are, the more rare your service is, the more you can charge. The same thing goes in hypnosis and coaching, whatever. Right?
Yeah, you're viewed as an expert, right? Like you are the go-to person for the thing that you are an expert in. And that also speaks to the prestige, right? Like we talked a little bit about that last week, but it shows you that, you have prestige in this area because you're an expert in this topic. You've likely done a lot of research and you're constantly talking about it, talking to people about that specific thing.
Yeah.
So,
So that's why you can make more money when you have a more refined niche, right? Because you're, eliminating a lot of potential clients, but you're calling in the clients who want a high level of care, who want precision, who want a very specific outcome, and they're going to be happy to pay more for it if you can provide it, right? So, there's that.
And you're, by niching too, you're speaking to a specific group of people who are looking for whatever it is you help them with, right? If you're a generalist, then it's like pretty much everyone is your client, right? But if you are, for my example, like if you're specifically talking about sex and intimacy and, improving that part of your life, then people's ears perk up when they hear that, if that's something that they're having an issue with in their life, right? And so they want to keep coming back to you to, hear information about whatever it is you have to say about that.
Yeah.
But if one day I'm talking about sex and then one day I'm talking about nutrition and then the next day I'm talking about, something else, then people are going to naturally fall off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, well, I was really into her when she was talking about sex, but I'm not really, like, my nutrition is fine. So, like, is she a sex person or a nutrition? Like, what is it? So that's why niching helps you create an audience, create a following, create, a bit of a community of people who are like, oh yeah, I love how she talks about all these things. I totally relate, right? Like she's speaking right to me. That's how you get that type of following.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
That's a big part of it, right? Because when you try to call in everybody, you call in nobody. When you call out a specific interest group, then they pay attention, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So we kind of covered what is niching, why is it important. There's many more reasons. I could talk all day about the value of niching and how it's much easier to hone your skill when you focus on one specific outcome rather than trying to widen your skill set because you have a million different clients with a million different potential desired outcomes. That's a recipe for a non-sustainable business versus honing a specific skill around a specific outcome is a recipe for an easy life as a coach, basically, in a sustainable business and really brilliant results with clients.
Yeah.
But let's give the people what they want, Alanna. Let's dive into your niche. I think it's very interesting. I think everybody's going to think it's very interesting as well and agree. Sexual freedom hypnosis is probably not what people think. I'm sure one of the first things you do, when you're describing sexual freedom to people is do some kind of demystifying around what it is that you do and what is sexual freedom. So tell us, Alanna Banks, what is this sexual freedom that you speak of? What's that all about?
Yeah. So really what it is, it's the ability to choose to have a consenting, confident sex life free from guilt and shame and sexual dysfunction. So that's kind of what it is on like a broad spectrum. Most specifically, I'm speaking to people who are having any kind of like sexual anxiety or, maybe low libido or, feeling like, they've lost the spark in their sex life. And many of the times these people are dealing with a lot of guilt and shame or misinformation and limiting beliefs around sex and sexuality and intimacy. So kind of like on the broad spectrum, that's the type of people that I work with and what sexual freedom hypnosis is. I'm not necessarily teaching you how to have sex or, giving you like real detailed kind of like education on that. That's not the work that I'm doing. What I'm helping you do is overcome any type of fears or limiting beliefs that you might have or shame or guilt around that. And that's the like majority of the work. It's really just helping people like step out, right? Like step into their person, into their power, into what they want.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds to me like many of the challenges that people face in life, it's not that they don't have inherently built in the ability to have and enjoy the life that they want. It's that there's something perhaps outside of their conscious awareness or maybe within their conscious awareness that is inhibiting it, that is inhibiting their natural ability to enjoy sexual connection or enjoy thorough connection with a partner or themselves or whatever, right? And so, I mean, you mentioned limiting belief, you mentioned shame. Those sound like things that are inhibiting, the person from having the fulfilling life that they want. Is that right?
Yeah. So if like someone listening right now is kind of like out there thinking like I feel uncomfortable. Like so for example, there's a lot of sort of things that come up, right? That you may be sitting there thinking like, oh yeah, that's me. But like there may be situations where you're just like you feel blocked in that you can't, for whatever reason, go there with someone else, right? Or you might feel like you're at this point in your relationship where you're like too tired or you're just not into it anymore, or you have maybe body image issues, or you're just really shy, or you think you should be orgasming faster, or maybe you're not orgasming at all and you're faking it all the time. Like these are a lot of the things that like I've been working with people, or feeling like they just have no sex drive whatsoever. Like that's another thing too that comes up really often. And the good news is all of this is very normal. Like there's nothing wrong with you if you're sitting there thinking, oh yeah, that's me. It's all super normal. And a lot of the work that I do at the beginning is really helping normalize how you're feeling, because we live in a society that's very sexualized, and there's a lot of misinformation out there around like what is right, what is wrong, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, how it should go. Like no one really knows, right? Because our education is based off of like watching movies, watching like in the media, like how it's portrayed is not real life. But unfortunately, people take it at face value. And so they're like, well, in the movies, this happens, but why isn't this happening in my life? Or you try to replicate that and it doesn't work. So a lot of the work that I do at the beginning with people is just myth busting, right? Yeah. And talking about like what sex is and what it isn't. Like, I was even having a conversation with a friend the other day just about intimacy, and she had no idea that like sitting on the couch watching a show with her partner that they both enjoy is intimacy, right? Like intimacy isn't just having sex. There's 5 levels of intimacy that, you need to have in order to have a fulfilling sexual relationship with someone, right? Yeah. You can have non-physical intimacy and have like a wonderful relationship, right? So, and this is the thing, as we go back to, well, in the movies I see intimacy as P in the V, as what as Kaz Riley would say. But
Yeah.
that's not what it is. Like, sex doesn't have to necessarily be like this big orgasmic explosive thing. You know, you can have like emotional intimacy with someone, you can have intellectual intimacy, you can have like financial intimacy. Like, there's all kinds of things. And if you have all five of them, then the physical stuff is just naturally going to be there because you feel safe and you feel the trust and you feel that connection with someone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, that explanation is a really, really, really good example of why a person will pay more to go to an expert in a niche, right?
Yeah.
Could a generalist hypnotist help somebody with sexual challenges in their life? Absolutely. But if you want the level of depth of knowledge and understanding that Alanna just spoke from, and you also are looking to work with a hypnotist, then working with Alanna becomes like a no-brainer decision if you're in her target niche, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth it, and Alanna provides a premium service, so I'm sure her, prices reflect that. And it's worth it. It's more than worth it, right? Because
Yeah.
listen to the
I
level
mean,
of,
really, like,
right?
yeah, like a good sex life. If right now your sex life is down in the dumps, or you're feeling inhibited, or you have fear, or you've got some shame or guilt from the past, and that's creating a block for you, then, working with me is priceless, really.
Yeah.
Right? Because I mean, it's just going to improve all areas of your life once you can get over that hump of whatever it is that's blocking you. And it could be in your conscious awareness, like Ryan said, but it could also be in your subconscious awareness. Like, I'm working with a couple of people right now, and they had no idea that, a couple of things that have come up were the thing that was like inhibiting them from like having like a really fulfilling sex life with their partner.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's also the benefit of working with someone who has skills in the subconscious mind as well. Because you can dig down and get to the root of, well, what's going on here.
The root of the problem. Yeah.
Hmm.
I have questions that I think will be interesting for the audience.
Yeah.
What are some of these specific limiting beliefs that tend to be more common when it comes to people experiencing these challenges? Like, what comes up in your practice with clients?
Yeah. So, well, a big one with women is they feel like it's taking them too long to orgasm.
Okay.
So a lot of the time people will fake it because they have this belief that they should be able to get there a lot faster, and they're not getting there fast enough. And so they're like, I'll just fake it so that we can just get this over with.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is a limiting belief.
Yeah.
That's a good example.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? Give me the top three. So that's in the top three for sure.
Yeah, that's a big one. Another big one is that you can only orgasm, or you're only having like a good orgasm through penetration for the heterosexual community out there. But the statistics show that only 18% of women can have an orgasm through penetration alone. And this is the kicker, because many women believe that, well, if I can't orgasm through penetration alone, then there's something wrong with me. And there isn't, because only 18% of the population can do that.
Yeah.
So how is it a dysfunction? How is it like something's wrong with you when pretty much the majority of women need more than just like penetration? And part of this is a limiting belief from movies and like porn, where that's what you're seeing. And so then you create this limiting belief. Well, that's what you're seeing, so that's what it should be like. But that's not true. And that's a really big sort of aha moment for people, when I'm like, you don't need to just focus on that.
Yeah. The interesting thing about that one, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if someone, let's say a woman has that limiting belief that something is wrong with her if she can't orgasm in that fashion, then unconsciously she might be harboring shame or other negative emotions that are just kind of running under the surface. And all it takes is actually,
The reframe.
that's normal,
Yeah.
right? Just changing that understanding so that it's like, actually, if that's how you're experiencing life, you're part of the large majority, 82% of what or whatever it is, and then poof, the old incorrect belief disappears, and what disappears along with it? All that unresolved shame or guilt or
Yeah.
whatever hurt that was attached to it. Is that right?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
That could be, sometimes that can be all it takes is just like a little bit of education. Because when you think about it, sex is such a taboo topic. And many of us have learned about sex through watching stuff, maybe watching porn, watching movies, talking to your friends about it. Right? Yeah. They're not experts. They don't know. So you're like, everyone is kind of just going in blind. And with like a whole bunch of like myths and misinformation and limiting beliefs around what that is. And so it's no wonder that like you get into the bedroom thinking like, well, I should know this, but I don't. And then if you're not communicating, like another big piece of the work that I do is just helping you communicate with your partner. And there's a lot of shame around that too, because as I said, we've kind of grown up in this society where sex is wrong. Sex is a sin. It's private. You don't talk about that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's even difficult for you to communicate with your partner, like what feels good, what you like, what you don't like. So a lot of the work that I do too is around helping women, like specifically because I predominantly am working with women, but like helping them communicate to their partner, like what they like, what they don't like, what they're available for, what they're not available for. Yeah. Boundaries, right? Like we do like a yes, no, maybe list that you can like, it's a fun activity to do with your partner to be like, okay, well, what are you into? What are you not into? What could we maybe explore together? Right. So these are all like really fun things to do, but there is a lot of reservation around it if you haven't been in that type of a relationship where you're open to talking about this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. One last question. One more question. Because I know this opened a loop in everybody's mind, and we all desperately need to know now.
Yeah.
What are the 5 levels of intimacy that you hinted at?
Oh yeah.
Earlier. So, or do people have to DM you to find out?
No, I can tell you.
Good. Yeah, tell us now.
Yeah. So there's physical, obviously. You have physical intimacy. Okay. You have emotional intimacy.
Emotional intimacy, yeah.
You have intellectual intimacy.
Intellectual, okay.
Recreational.
Ooh. Down at the tennis court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's foreplay, right? That's foreplay.
Cool. All right.
Financial.
Financial intimacy. Ooh.
And then unconditional.
That's 6, Alanna Banks. You said there was 5.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess unconditional is kind of just like an add-on. That was a bonus.
Oh, unconditional is a bonus. Secret bonus number 6.
Like unconditional means that you're willing to be in a physical relationship with someone without always having to like have it to be sexual.
Okay, I gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah. What is give us a rundown. What's financial intimacy?
Well, financial intimacy would mean like you have similar goals in terms of like what you want to achieve financially, or you feel safe and you feel like you're both on the same track. You can speak about your finances openly, because that's a big sore spot in a lot of relationships too, is finances, like talking about finances. If one person is like overspending and the other person isn't. And so it's just like getting on the same page where you're able to talk about the finances and connect. It's all about really connection, right? Like the intimacy is all about like that deep connection. So being able to connect in a healthy way around your finances.
Yeah. So isn't that interesting to have that as one piece to realize that that is one piece of the puzzle, because for some people, that may be the primary inhibiting factor in their dissatisfaction or in their whatever, however it's termed. And that might be the thing that needs addressing first, is open communication about finances, which on the surface feels like it has nothing to do with sexual freedom, but it could, because at the end of the day, well, you and I know as hypnotists, everything is connected at the unconscious, right? Fascinating.
Yeah. Well, and that can also stem back to, some inner child healing work that we might have to do around finance. Maybe that was like an issue when you were a kid, like, not to always bring everything back down to the inner child, but like, it doesn't necessarily, like the root of that financial stuff isn't necessarily within your relationship. It could be from like a limiting belief from before or whatever too, right? So there's a lot to explore, just in that one specific one.
Cool. Well, all right. So I guess we did it. We talked all about what is a niche, why niching is important, got into Alanna's niche as well, which is obviously really fascinating.
Yeah, it's so fun. Like one thing I will add to the whole niche idea is, if you're like, I was really against niching, because I was like, I didn't have something that I could like really sink my teeth into, right? Like I didn't have something that I was super into until I fell upon this particular niche. And I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I just absolutely love it. And it makes sense to me now, because I remember growing up watching Sex with Sue.
Yeah, I remember Sex with Sue. Yeah.
So if you're in Canada, Sex with Sue was, you probably know what it was, but it was like this woman who like basically had like an open talk show about sex, and you could ask all the questions you wanted. And I always, like when I look back now, I always really admired this woman, and I was like, I want to be like her one day. Like, anyway, so now I feel like I am sort of like Sex with Sue, but it's Sex with Alanna.
Her show was actually called the Sunday Night Sex Show.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was
with Sue Johansson.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was, as Alanna described, it was on public access TV, I think, or something. Yeah. And it was just very frank conversation about sex and health and all that stuff. And like, I think for a whole generation of Canadians, that was like the only place where there was like, this was before the internet, became what it is today. That was like the source of blunt, unfiltered, honest information about sex. So it's very memorable. Yeah. So if there's not a podcast called the Sunday Night Sex Podcast, well, Alanna Banks, that's a gap in the market.
I know.
To be filled.
So true.
Cool. All right. So there you have it, folks. If you want to know more about niching, shoot us a message. You want to know more about sexual freedom hypnosis, definitely get in touch with Alanna.
But I wanted to make one more point too. That's really important. And they have
to sign up for the newsletter if they want. They want to hear that very important tidbit of information. They have to send $1.
Oh yeah. No. Maybe right. This is for our locked.
No. Give them the important.
No, like I think one important thing, just as we were talking about Sue Johansson, it's like, because this topic is so taboo, or has been so taboo, and there's a lot of like stuff around it, a lot of guilt and shame around it. If you grew up in a house where you didn't talk about sex and like it wasn't an open conversation, then chances are you have some limiting beliefs, some guilt and shame about sex that you need to uncover, that, maybe until you've been listening to this right now, you weren't really aware of. And you were thinking, oh, well, this is just the way I am, or this is just the way things are. And I want you to know that that's not true, that there is a lot that you can be liberated through this work. And you likely have a lot of things to work through. So especially if you have kids, it's super important, because you have to remember that, if you're not open about talking about this stuff, then that means you're probably not open about talking about this stuff with your kids. And it's so important to talk about this stuff with your kids and be open about it so that they feel comfortable asking you questions so that they don't then create the limiting beliefs that you have around sex, right? So do it, if not for you, do it for the next generation.
Yeah. Very good point. Very good point. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Because we all had that one friend whose mom was like super into sex and they had all the books. Like I had that friend. Because at my house, we didn't talk about it. It wasn't something that we talked about a lot. But, you know, I had a friend and like her mom was like very open, had all the books and everything. And so as a result, I've taken that into my own life. And like with my kids, I've always been super open about talking about sex with them. If they have questions, I'm not like all shy about it. I bought the books, you know, I read the books with them because I want them to feel really comfortable. I want them to feel really comfortable in their bodies. I want them to feel comfortable with pleasure. I want them to feel comfortable to come to me and ask questions if they need to. I think that's super important. And obviously like age appropriate, right? Like you're not going crazy with like providing information, but I just have always like I made that a goal. Even before I became like got involved with this work, I made it a priority to be very open with my kids. And they're boys, so it's like a totally new game for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just such important work and very empowering. Yeah. So if you are curious at all, please reach out to me.
Yeah. Follow Alanna Banks on Instagram and reach out to Alanna for sure. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
I think that's it for this one.
That's it. What do you have going on? Where can we find you?
Very soon, I'm going to be releasing a program called the Hypno Business Builder. And it's all about how to, as efficiently and as fast as possible, integrate hypnosis into your coaching business or start a hypnosis business if you're not currently coaching people, and start seeing paid clients, and growing your business. So the slogan is going to be, you know, invest in the program, start training Friday night, and by Monday morning, you know, you're ready to start seeing clients. And that may sound, you know, too good to be true, but I've done it with over 100 people now have gone through my process of learning hypnosis quickly and starting to see clients. And Alanna was one of them a couple of years ago. And the process works, it's proven. And, you know, now I'm going to start opening it up to even more people. So that's coming down the pipe really soon. I'm actually thinking about doing like a major discount for people who pre-order the program. Like if you invest in it before the actual release day, maybe even like half off. So if you're even remotely interested in that, shoot me a DM on Instagram at Ryan Montes NLP. Keep listening to the podcast. Keep rocking and rolling in a free world. That's all I got.
Yeah, and I've had a sneak peek of the Hypno Business Builder, and it's very comprehensive. Yeah. Very comprehensive.
Yeah, comprehensive but consumable.
Yeah.
Consumable, yeah.
So yeah, if you're even slightly interested, I would get in on that potential half price offer.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. And all right, and Alanna Banks coaching.
Oh yeah. So I have you can also follow me at Alanna Banks Coaching. And I'm updating my website with all of this information about the sexual freedom hypnosis stuff. So that will be coming, alannabanks.com. If you don't see anything there, just shoot me a message on Instagram for more info on that, because I don't have a ton of info about sexual freedom hypnosis on my website right now.
Cool. All right. That's it for this one.
All right. We'll talk to you next time.
Heck yeah.